The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. It floated at the exact center of civilized space, a massive station made of white metal and glass that could hold 10,000 beings at once. Today, representatives from 47 different species had gathered inside. Their ships filled the space around the station like a cloud of metal insects. Kang Doyun sat in his assigned seat near the back of the hall. This was where they always put the humans. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 12 years ago, and to the older species, humans were still children, bobbies who had barely learned to walk among the stars. Do-yun was 58 years old. His hair had turned gray at the temples and deep lines marked the corners of his eyes. He wore a simple dark suit, nothing fancy. Beside him sat Park Yuna, his assistant. She was 30 years younger with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "They are all staring at us," Yuna whispered. "Let them stare," Do-yun replied quietly. His voice was calm, almost bored. The hall was shaped like a giant bowl, with seats rising up in circles around a central platform. On that platform stood the speaker for the Velthari Dominion, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. The Velthari were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. The speaker raised 2 of his arms for silence. The noise in the hall slowly died down. "We have gathered here today to address a matter of great importance," the speaker said. His voice was translated instantly into thousands of languages through tiny devices in everyone's ears. "We must discuss the human problem." Do-yun did not move. His face showed nothing. The speaker continued. "In just 12 years, the humans have expanded beyond their original borders. They have built colonies on 17 worlds. They have constructed a fleet of warships. They have violated the expansion treaties they signed when they joined this council." Murmurs spread through the hall. Do-yun could feel the anger in the room. It pressed against him like heat from a fire. "The humans breed too fast," the speaker said. "They consume resources at an alarming rate. They reverse engineer our technology without permission. They refuse to follow our rules." Another alien stood up. This one was from the Korath Federation, a species that looked like large insects with hard shells. "The humans are a threat," the insect creature said. "If we do not stop them now, they will swallow the galaxy in 100 years." More voices joined in agreement. Species that normally hated each other were suddenly united. They all pointed their anger at the small group of humans sitting in the back of the hall. Yuna's hands were tight in her lap. "Sir," she whispered, "this is bad." Do-yun said nothing. He simply watched. The Velthari speaker raised his arms again. The hall fell silent. "The council has voted," he announced. 44 species have agreed to the following demands." A screen behind him lit up, showing a list of terms. "Earth must surrender all colonies beyond your home system. Earth must dismantle its entire military fleet. Earth must accept protectorate status under the Velthari Dominion." The speaker paused, his black eyes finding Do-yun in the crowd. "If these terms are not accepted within 1 standard day, the combined forces of the Council will declare war on humanity. We will remove your species from the galactic stage by force." The hall erupted. Aliens shouted and cheered. Some stomped their feet or tentacles against the floor. The sound was like thunder. Yuna grabbed Do-yun's arm. Her face was pale. "What do we do?" Do-yun stood up slowly. The movement was so calm, so unhurried, that it took several seconds for anyone to notice. But one by one, the aliens fell silent. They watched the old human rise from his seat. Do-yun walked down the aisle toward the central platform. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. Guards moved forward to stop him, but the Velthari speaker waved them back. He wanted to hear what the human would say. When Do-yun reached the platform, he turned to face the thousands of watching aliens. His face was still calm, and then, slowly, he smiled. It was a small smile, gentle, even, but something about it made the nearest delegates lean back in their seats. Something about it felt wrong. War, Doyun said softly. His voice carried through every translator in the hall. You are declaring war on humanity. The Velthari speaker stood taller. Yes, unless you accept our terms. Doyun nodded, still smiling. I see, and you believe you will win this war. Laughter rippled through the hall. The Korath representative clicked his mandibles in amusement. You have 30 ships, he said. The council has 30,000. Your question is foolish. 30 ships, Doyun repeated. He seemed to consider this. Yes, that is true. That is how many ships we have shown you. The laughter faded slightly. Yuna watched from her seat, her heart pounding. She had worked with Doyun for 5 years, but she had never seen him like this. There was something different in his eyes, something that scared her. Very well, Doyun said. I accept your declaration of war on behalf of Earth. Shocked silence filled the hall. No one had expected him to accept. They thought he would beg, negotiate, ask for more time. But first, Doyun continued, may I share a story? It will only take a moment. The Velthari speaker tilted his head. He was curious despite himself. Speak, human, tell your story. Doyun turned slowly, looking at all the faces watching him. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species, all of them certain that they were looking at a dead man, a representative of a doomed species. Long ago, Doyun began, on our home world, humans were not the strongest animals. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or fangs or hard shells to protect us. He paused, letting the silence stretch. We were prey, he said. The large animals hunted us. They ate our children. They drove us from our homes. For millions of years, we were weak and afraid. Some aliens exchanged confused looks. Why was he telling them this? But then something changed, Doyun continued. His smile grew slightly wider. We got tired of being afraid. We learned to work together. We learned to make tools. We learned to plan and wait and strike at the perfect moment. His voice dropped lower, and somehow that made it more frightening. We learned to hunt the hunters. The hall was completely silent now. Even the air seemed to hold still. Every predator on our world is now extinct or in a cage, Doyun said. We killed them all, not because we hated them, but because they threatened us and humans do not accept threats. He looked directly at the Velthari speaker. You have just declared war on the species that hunted its own predators to extinction. You have declared war on the species that split the atom, walked on moons, and refused to stay on one planet. You have declared war on 8 billion people who have spent their entire history fighting for survival. Doyun reached into his pocket. Several guards raised their weapons, but he only pulled out a small communication device. He pressed a single button. And now, he said quietly, let me show you what humanity has really been doing for the past 12 years. The giant screen behind the Velthari speaker flickered. The list of demands disappeared. In its place appeared a star map, showing known space in real time. Yuna gasped, so did half the aliens in the hall. Across the map, in 200 different locations, new signals were appearing. Ship signatures, thousands of them. They blinked into existence around every major alien military station, every important planet, every strategic point in the galaxy. Human ships, an armada that dwarfed anything the Council had ever seen. The Velthari speaker stumbled backward. His blue face had gone pale. Impossible, he whispered. Where did they come from? Doyun put the communication device back in his pocket. His smile had not changed. We have been preparing for this day since the moment we joined your council, he said. We knew you would never accept us as equals. We knew you would eventually try to destroy us. So we prepared. He stepped closer to the trembling speaker. You offered us your technology as a gift. You thought we were too primitive to understand it. But humans are very good at learning from others, and we are even better at improving what we learn. The hall had descended into chaos. Aliens were screaming, running, trying to contact their home worlds, but Do-Yun's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Now," he said calmly, "shall we discuss new terms?" 10 years ago, Kang Do-Yun stood in a small meeting room deep beneath the mountains of Korea. The room had no windows. The walls were thick concrete, and the door was made of solid steel. Only 12 people in the entire world knew this room existed. Secretary General Bae Yoonji sat at the head of the table. She was a small woman with gray hair and glasses, but her eyes were sharp as knives. Around her sat the most important people on Earth: military leaders, scientists, spies, and one diplomat named Kang Do-Yun. "We have completed our analysis," said a tall man with broad shoulders. This was Admiral Shin Tae-ho, the most respected naval commander in human history. "The situation is exactly as we feared." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the galaxy, with Earth marked as a tiny blue dot on the edge. "The Galactic Council will never accept us," Tae-ho said. "Their records show a clear pattern. Every new species that joins is kept weak and dependent. Any species that grows too powerful is destroyed." "How many?" Yoonji asked quietly. 17, Tae-ho replied. 17 species have been eliminated by the Council in the past 50,000 years. They call it maintaining balance. We call it murder. The room was silent. Everyone there had suspected this truth, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. "So they will come for us eventually," Yoonji said. It was not a question. "Yes," Tae-ho confirmed. "Our best estimate is 10 to 15 years. They will wait until they believe we are still weak, then they will demand our surrender. If we refuse, they will destroy us." Yoonji removed her glasses and cleaned them slowly. When she put them back on, her face was calm. "Then we have 10 years to prepare. What do we need?" A woman at the end of the table raised her hand. Dr. Lee Somi was young for someone in this room, only 35 years old, but she was already the greatest scientist of her generation. "Ships," she said. "We need ships, thousands of them, but not just any ships. We need ships that are better than anything in the galaxy." "Can it be done?" Yoonji asked. Somi smiled. It was a confident smile, the smile of someone who had already solved the problem in her head. "The aliens gave us their technology when we joined the Council. They thought we would take centuries to understand it. They were wrong." She stood up and walked to the hologram, manipulating it with her hands. The image changed to show complex diagrams of alien engines and weapons. "Their technology is good," Somi said, "but it has not improved in thousands of years. They stopped innovating long ago. They became comfortable." She looked around the table. "Humans never become comfortable. We always want more. I have already found ways to make their engines twice as fast and their weapons 3 times more powerful." Tae-ho leaned forward. "How long to build a fleet?" "If we work in secret, using underground facilities and hidden shipyards in the outer solar system, I estimate 8 years to build 5,000 ships." Several people around the table gasped. 5,000 ships was more than most alien species had. But Yoonji shook her head. "Not enough. We will be fighting the entire Council. We need more." Somi nodded. "I know. That is why I propose Project Lighthouse." She changed the hologram again. Now it showed a strange device, something that looked like a metal ball covered in crystals. "The aliens use faster-than-light communication that takes hours or days to cross the galaxy," Somi explained. "But I have found a way to communicate instantly. No delay at all. With this technology, we can coordinate our entire fleet perfectly, no matter where they are. The aliens will not be able to match us." "And weapons?" Tae-ho asked. Somi's smile grew wider. "I have also discovered something interesting about alien shield technology. It has a weakness, a small gap in the frequency range that they never bothered to fix because none of them ever thought to look for it." She paused. Our weapons will pass through their shields like they do not exist." The room was quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet. It was the silence of hope. Yunji stood up. "We will do this," she said. "We will build our fleet in secret, we will prepare our weapons, and when they come for us we will be ready." She looked at each person in the room. "This is the most important mission in human history. We are not just protecting Earth. We are protecting our children, our future, every human who will ever be born." Her eyes landed on Do-yun. "And we will need someone to face them when the time comes. Someone who can stand in front of the entire galaxy and not show fear. Someone who can smile while surrounded by enemies." Do-yun met her gaze. "Why me?" "Because you were a soldier before you were a diplomat," Yunji said. "Because you have looked death in the face before and did not blink. And because when you smile, people believe you know something they do not." That was 10 years ago. Now, Do-yun stood on the platform in the Grand Assembly Hall, smiling at the terrified aliens around him. Behind him, the screen showed thousands of human ships appearing across the galaxy like stars being born. He thought about those 10 years, the secret meetings, the hidden shipyards built inside asteroids in the Oort cloud, far from any alien sensors, the factories on the dark side of Jupiter's moons, working day and night to build weapons, the training programs that turned ordinary people into the most skilled soldiers in the galaxy. He thought about Admiral Tiho, who had spent a decade preparing for this moment. Right now, Tiho was aboard the command ship, watching the same chaos that Do-yun was watching. They had spoken that morning before Do-yun left for the council meeting. "Are you ready?" Tiho had asked. "I have been ready for 10 years, Do-yun had replied. In his ear, a tiny communicator buzzed. It was Park Yuna's voice, barely a whisper. "Sir, I just received a coded message from Earth. Project Lighthouse is fully operational. All ships are in position and awaiting orders." Do-yun did not react visibly, but inside he felt a wave of relief so strong it almost made him dizzy. They had done it. Against all odds, they had actually done it. The Velthari speaker was shouting now, trying to restore order in the hall, but nobody was listening to him anymore. Alien commanders were screaming into their communicators, demanding explanations from their military leaders. How had the humans built so many ships? How had they hidden them? How had they appeared everywhere at once? One by one, reports came back. Human ships were not attacking. They were just sitting there, weapons powered up, waiting. It was almost more terrifying than if they had started shooting. It showed control. It showed that humans were not acting out of panic or desperation. They had planned this perfectly. Do-yun raised his hand. Slowly, the chaos began to die down. The aliens turned to look at him, fear in their many different eyes. "I understand you are confused," Do-yun said calmly. "I will explain." He walked to the hologram controls and changed the display. Now it showed Earth, the small blue planet that these aliens had dismissed as unimportant. "When we joined your council 12 years ago, we had just learned that we were not alone in the universe. It was the greatest moment in our history. We were excited. We wanted to make friends. We wanted to learn." His voice grew harder. "But we also listened. We watched. We studied your history, your politics, your patterns, and we saw the truth. You do not welcome new species. You fear them, you control them, and when they become too strong, you destroy them." The Velthari speaker opened his mouth to speak, but Do-yun continued. "We found records of the 17 species you have eliminated. The Rashani, the Vormek, the Silkari, all of them gone, wiped from existence because they grew too powerful." He paused. "Did you think we would wait for the same fate?" An alien in the crowd called out, "You are lying. Those species threaten the peace." Do-yun turned to face the speaker. It was a delegate from a small species called the Maltori. "Tell me," Do-yun said softly, "did any of those species actually attack anyone first, or did the council strike before they had the chance?" The Maltori delegate fell silent, Everyone knew the answer. "We do not blame you for being afraid," Doyun continued. "Fear is natural, but we will not be your victims. We will not surrender our colonies, dismantle our fleet, or become your servants." He walked back to the center of the platform. "However, we also do not want war. Humans have fought enough wars against each other. We know the cost. We know the pain. So I am going to offer you something that none of your previous victims ever had the chance to offer." He spread his arms wide. "Peace, true peace. Not the peace of masters and slaves, but the peace of equals. We want to be your partners, not your enemies. We want to share our technology, our ideas, our dreams. We want to build something better than what exists now." His smile returned, gentler now. "But if you choose war, then you will lose. Not because we are stronger than any single species, but because humans have spent their entire history fighting for survival. It is what we do. It is who we are, and we will never, ever give up." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the communication device again. "So I ask you now, members of the Galactic Council, what do you choose?" The hall was silent. Thousands of aliens stared at the small human standing alone on the platform. Behind him, the screen showed his fleet, waiting patiently for orders that they hoped would never come. Yuna watched from her seat, tears in her eyes. She finally understood why Doyun had been chosen. It was not just because he was brave. It was because he truly believed what he was saying. He really did want peace, but he was also ready for war. That was what made him so terrifying. Captain Yoon Hajin stood on the bridge of the S Defiance, the largest warship ever built by human hands. Through the massive viewing window, he could see the alien military station floating in space before him. It was surrounded by hundreds of alien warships, their weapons pointed at his fleet. But they were not firing. Hajin understood why. Appearing from nowhere, 30 human ships had surrounded the station in seconds. The aliens had not even detected them until they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Now they were frozen, caught between fear and confusion. "Captain," said Specialist Choi Nari from her tactical station. She was 25 years old, the youngest officer on the ship, but she had the best instincts Hajin had ever seen. "The alien commander is requesting communication." "Put him through." The screen at the front of the bridge flickered, and an alien face appeared. It was a Velthari, his blue skin pale with shock. "Human vessel," the alien said, his voice shaking. "How did you do this? Our sensors did not detect your approach. Our shields should have blocked your jump coordinates." Hajin smiled. It was a calm smile, the same kind of smile that Kang Do-yun was wearing at that exact moment in the Grand Assembly Hall. "Your shields have a gap in their frequency range," Hajin said. "You never noticed it because none of your species ever looked. We looked, we found it, and we used it." The alien commander's eyes went wide. "Impossible. Our technology has been perfected over millennia." "Perfected," Hajin repeated. "Yes, that is your problem. You stopped improving. You thought you had reached the end of innovation, but humans never stop improving. It is in our nature." On the screen, he could see alien officers running back and forth behind their commander. Red lights were flashing. Alarms were sounding. Complete chaos. Nari looked up from her station. "Sir, we are receiving reports from all other units. All 200 positions are secured. Human ships are in place around every major alien installation." Hajin nodded. "Send word to Admiral Tiho, Phase 1 complete." Millions of kilometers away, aboard the command ship, Admiral Shin Tiho received the message. He allowed himself a small smile before turning to his officers. "All units report," he ordered. The reports came in one after another. The Velthari home fleet was surrounded. The Koreth military stations were blockaded. The trade routes were controlled. Every strategic point in the galaxy was now under human watch. And not a single shot had been fired. This was the plan. This had always been the plan. Dr. Lee Somi had designed the fleet to be overwhelming, not to fight but to make fighting unnecessary. When the enemy sees that they cannot win, they stop trying. Tiho opened a communication channel to all human ships. "This is Admiral Tiho. All units hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon. Our goal is peace, not destruction. Let our presence speak for itself." Back in the Grand Assembly Hall, Kang Do-yun was explaining this same truth to the frightened delegates. "We could destroy you," he said calmly. "Right now, at this very moment, we could give the order and your fleets would be gone. Your stations would be burning. Your home worlds would be defenseless." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But we do not want to destroy you. What would be the point? You are not our enemies, you are just afraid, and fear makes people do stupid things." The Velthari speaker finally found his voice. "You speak of peace while holding weapons to our heads. This is not peace. This is conquest." Do-yun shook his head slowly. "No, conquest is what you were planning to do to us. You wanted to take our colonies, destroy our ships, and make us your servants. We are not doing that. We are asking for equality, nothing more." "Equality?" The Koreth representative clicked his mandibles in anger. "You appear from nowhere with an army and call it equality." "Yes," Do-yun said simply, "because true equality is not given. It is taken. You would never have respected us if we had stayed weak. You would never have treated us as equals if we had come to you with nothing but words. This is the only language you understand. Power." He gestured at the screen, which still showed the human fleet. "We have shown you our power. Now let us show you our intentions." He pressed a button on his communication device and spoke clearly. "Admiral Tiho, this is Diplomat Kang. Please begin demonstration protocol." Across the galaxy, human ships received the order. In perfect coordination, they all did the same thing at the same moment. They powered down their weapons. The aliens watched in shock as the threatening human ships became harmless. Weapon ports closed. Targeting systems went offline. The ships remained in position, but they were no longer ready to fire. "What are you doing?" the Velthari speaker demanded. Do-yun spread his hands, showing trust. "Our ships still have shields and engines. If you attack us, we can defend ourselves and escape. But we are choosing not to threaten you. We are choosing to believe that you are capable of making the right decision." The hall buzzed with confused murmurs. This was not how superior forces behaved. When you had power, you used it. You crushed your enemies. You took what you wanted. That was how the galaxy had always worked. But the humans were doing something different. "We know you are afraid of us," Do-yun continued. "We know you think we will do to you what you have done to others, but humans are not like you. We do not destroy what we fear. We try to understand it. We try to find common ground. We try to build bridges instead of walls." He walked toward the Velthari speaker, close enough to touch him. "You have been rulers of this galaxy for a long time," Do-yun said softly. "You have made the rules. You have decided who lives and who dies. But that time is over now. Not because we want to replace you, but because the old rules do not work anymore." He turned to address the entire hall. "Humanity brings something new. We bring cooperation without domination. We bring progress without destruction. We bring the idea that different species can work together as partners, not as masters and slaves." "Pretty words," the Koreth representative said. "But how do we know you will keep them? How do we know you will not turn on us once we lower our guard?" It was a fair question. Do-yun had expected it. "You do not know," he admitted. "Just as we did not know if you would accept us when we joined the council. Trust is not something that can be proven in advance. It must be built over time through actions, through choices, through keeping promises." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. "This contains the designs for our faster-than-light communication system. It will allow instant communication across any distance. We are offering it to you freely. No conditions, no payment." Gasps filled the hall. Technology was the most valuable thing in the galaxy. Species guarded their secrets jealously. No one ever gave away their advantages. "Why would you do this?" the Velthari speaker asked suspiciously. "Because we want you to trust us," Doyun said. "And because this technology will help everyone. Imagine being able to coordinate rescue efforts instantly during a disaster. Imagine being able to communicate with loved ones on distant worlds without waiting days for a response. This technology can improve every life in the galaxy." He held out the chip. "Take it, study it, use it. This is our first gift to you. There will be more if you choose peace." The hall was silent. The Velthari speaker stared at the chip as if it might bite him. On the Defiance, Captain Hajan watched the scene through a live feed. Beside him, Nari shook her head in amazement. "He is actually doing it," she said. "He is giving away our greatest advantage." Hajan nodded. "That is the point. We do not need advantages over allies. We only need advantages over enemies." "But what if they take the technology and attack us anyway?" Hajan smiled. "Then we will remind them that we still have better engineers. By the time they figure out how our communication system works, Dr. Somi will have invented something new." Back in the hall, Doyun was still holding out the chip. Finally, slowly, the Velthari speaker reached out and took it. "This proves nothing," the speaker said. "One gift does not erase decades of distrust." "I agree," Doyun said. "That is why we will continue to prove ourselves, day after day, year after year, until you believe us. We have time, we are patient, and we really do want to be your friends." He stepped back and looked around the hall one final time. "The war you declared has not happened yet. It does not have to happen at all. You can still choose peace. You can still choose to welcome us as equals instead of trying to destroy us as threats." His smile softened. "Humans have a saying, the best way to destroy an enemy is to make him a friend. We are offering you that chance. What do you choose?" The hall was quiet. Thousands of aliens looked at each other, uncertain, afraid, but also curious. For the first time in galactic history, someone was offering them a different path. And slowly, one by one, they began to consider taking it. The Velthari speaker held the data chip in his trembling hand. Around him, the Grand Assembly Hall was filled with confusion. Some delegates were shouting for war. Others were calling for peace. A few had already left, rushing to contact their home worlds. But three species were not confused at all. The Torsion Empire had always been the most aggressive members of the Council. They were large creatures, covered in thick scales, with teeth designed for tearing flesh. Their representative stood up, his voice booming through the hall. "This is a trick," he shouted. "The humans are trying to confuse us with false offers of peace. While we hesitate, their ships surround our worlds. I say we attack now before it is too late." Two other species rose to stand with him. The Varic Collective, a hive-mind species that saw all other beings as potential food, and the Hantari Confederacy, warriors who had built their entire culture around conquest and glory. Together, these three species controlled almost a quarter of the Council's military forces. They had been the loudest voices calling for humanity's destruction from the beginning. Kang Doyun watched them calmly. He had expected this. Not everyone would choose peace. Some people preferred war. "You wish to attack us?" Doyun asked politely. The Torsion representative bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. "We do not fear your ships, human. We have fought wars for 10,000 years. We will crush you and take your worlds for ourselves." Doyun nodded slowly. "I understand. You are free to try." He pressed a button on his communication device. "Admiral Tiho, the Torsion, Varic, and Hantari have chosen war. Please respond accordingly." Across the galaxy, Admiral Shin Tiho received the message. He had been expecting it too. They had prepared for this possibility, studied the aggressive species, planned their response. All units in Torsion, Varric, and Hantari space, Tiho ordered. Activate combat mode. Remember your training, minimal casualties. We win by being better, not by being cruel. On the Defiance, Captain Yoon Hajan straightened in his chair. The ship he had surrounded belonged to the Torsion Empire. Its commander had been threatening him for the past hour, promising death and destruction. Specialist Nari, Hajan said calmly, target their weapon systems, engines too, but avoid the crew quarters. I do not want any deaths if we can help it. Nari's fingers flew across her console. Targets locked, Captain. Fire. The Defiance's weapons came alive. Beams of energy shot across space, striking the Torsion warship with surgical precision. The alien vessel's weapons exploded. Its engines went dark. In less than 3 seconds, the ship was completely disabled. But it was not destroyed. Its hull was intact. Its life support was still running. Its crew was still alive. The Torsion commander appeared on the screen again. His face was no longer angry. It was shocked. How? He demanded. Our shields were at full power. Our armor is the strongest in the fleet. How did you cut through us like paper? Hajan leaned forward. Your shields have a gap in their frequency range. Your armor is strong, but our weapons are stronger, and our targeting systems can hit a moving target from 10,000 kilometers away without missing. He paused. But notice what we did not do. We did not kill anyone. We did not destroy your ship. We simply made it impossible for you to fight. His eyes hardened. We could have killed you all in a single shot. We chose not to. Remember that. The same scene played out across the galaxy. Human ships engaged Torsion, Varric, and Hantari forces with devastating efficiency. But they did not slaughter their enemies. They disabled them, cut their power, destroyed their weapons, left them floating helplessly in space. And then they waited. Ground Commander Han Minyu led the human soldiers who boarded the disabled ships. His orders were clear. Secure the vessels. Treat the crews with respect. Do not harm anyone who surrenders. It was harder than fighting. Some alien soldiers attacked anyway, driven by fear or pride. Minyu's troops used non-lethal weapons when possible, stunning their opponents instead of killing them. When they had no choice, they were quick and clean about it. After 6 hours, the battle was over. The Torsion fleet was captured. The Varric hives were surrounded. The Hantari war stations were under human control. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Less than 200 aliens had died, most of them from accidents rather than combat. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the delegates watched in stunned silence as the reports came in. They had expected a brutal fight. They had expected the humans to show their true nature as savage conquerors. Instead, they had watched the most controlled, precise military operation in galactic history. Secretary General Bae Yoonji appeared on the main screen. She was standing in her office on Earth, looking directly at the camera with calm, steady eyes. To all members of the Galactic Council, she said, 3 species chose war. We responded. The war is now over. She paused to let that sink in. We have not executed any prisoners. We have not destroyed any cities. We have not harmed any civilians. The soldiers who surrendered are being treated with dignity and will be returned to their home worlds when things are settled. Her voice grew softer but somehow stronger. This is who we are. We do not wage war for revenge. We do not kill for pleasure. We fight only to protect ourselves, and we stop fighting as soon as the threat is gone. She looked directly at the Velthari speaker. We are still offering peace. The terms have not changed. We want equality, respect, and the chance to work together as partners. The species who chose war will face consequences, yes, but those consequences will be fair. They will be given the chance to rejoin the galactic community once they prove they can be trusted. The hall was silent. Do-Yun watched the reactions of the aliens around him. He saw fear, yes, but he also saw something else. He saw respect. maybe even a little admiration. The Maltori delegate, the one who had questioned him earlier, slowly stood up. "I believe them," the Maltori said quietly. "They could have destroyed those fleets. They could have killed millions, but they chose not to. That is not the behavior of conquerors. That is the behavior of people who actually want peace." Other voices joined in. The Silthani, a peaceful species that had always feared the aggressive races, spoke in favor of accepting humanity. The Mekari, scientists who admired innovation above all else, expressed interest in the technology sharing Doyun had offered. One by one, the tide began to turn. The Velthari speaker raised his hands for silence. His face was troubled, but there was something thoughtful in his expression. "I have served on this council for 40 years," he said slowly. "I have seen wars, treaties, betrayals, and alliances. I thought I understood how power works, but today I have seen something I never expected." He looked at Doyun. "You had every reason to hate us. We declared war on your species. We threatened to destroy your civilization. And yet you responded with restraint. You defeated our most aggressive members without massacring them. You offered gifts instead of demands." He held up the data chip. "I do not fully trust you. Perhaps I never will, but I am willing to give you a chance." He turned to the assembly. "I propose that we accept humanity's offer of peace, not because we have no choice, but because it is the right thing to do." The vote took only minutes. 41 species voted in favor of peace. 3 abstained, and the 3 who had chosen war had no representatives left to vote. When the results were announced, Doyun felt something release in his chest. Relief, exhaustion, and a strange kind of joy. They had done it. Against all odds, they had actually done it. Park Yuna appeared at his side, her eyes wet with tears. "Sir, we won. We actually won." Doyun shook his head slowly. "No, Yuna, not won. That is not the right word." She looked at him, confused. "We did not win a war," Doyun explained. "We prevented one. Those are very different things. Winning means someone loses. Preventing means everyone survives." He looked around the hall, at the thousands of aliens who were now talking among themselves, sharing data about humanity, discussing possibilities for cooperation. "Today is not a victory," Doyun said softly. "Today is a beginning. The real work starts now. Building trust, sharing knowledge, learning to live together. That will take generations." Yuna nodded slowly. "What do we do first?" Doyun smiled, his real smile, the one that reached his eyes. "First we go home. I have not seen my family in 3 months. Then we come back and start talking, really talking, about trade, about culture, about science, about everything." He started walking toward the exit. "And we keep our promises. That is the most important thing. Every promise we made today we keep, because that is how trust is built, one promise at a time." Behind him, the Grand Assembly Hall was changing. The fear was fading, replaced by curiosity. The hostility was cooling, replaced by cautious interest. It was not perfect, it would never be perfect, but it was better than war, and sometimes better was enough. 3 months had passed since the day that changed the galaxy. Kang Doyun sat on the porch of his small house, watching the sun set over the ocean. The house was old, built by his grandfather 50 years ago, with wooden walls and a roof of traditional tiles. It was nothing special compared to the massive stations and starships he had spent the last decade working in. But to Doyun, it was the most beautiful place in the universe. The sound of small footsteps made him turn. His grandson came running out of the house, a boy of 7 years with messy hair and bright, curious eyes. "Grandfather," the boy called, "tell me another story about the aliens." Doyun smiled and lifted the child onto his lap. "What story do you want to hear?" "The one about the big meeting, when you talked to all the aliens and they wanted to fight us." Doyun chuckled softly. His grandson had heard this story many times, but he never got tired of it. Children were like that. They loved hearing the same stories again and again, each time discovering something new. "All right," Do-Yun said, "but this time I want to tell you what happened after." The boy settled against his grandfather's chest, ready to listen. "After the meeting, many things changed," Do-Yun began. "The Galactic Council was reorganized. Before, the older species made all the decisions. They did not listen to younger species like us. But we changed that. Now every species has a voice. Every species can vote. And Earth has a permanent seat just like the oldest members." "Because we were brave?" the boy asked. "Because we earned their respect. Bravery was part of it, yes. But we also showed them something they did not expect. We showed them kindness." He paused, remembering those difficult months of negotiations. Rebuilding trust was harder than he had imagined. There were arguments, setbacks, moments when it seemed like everything would fall apart. But they had kept trying. "Your Aunt Yuna is the chief diplomat now," Do-Yun continued. "She took over when I retired. She is very good at it, better than me, I think." Park Yuna had grown so much since those days. She had learned from Do-Yun, but she had also developed her own style. Where Do-Yun was calm and patient, Yuna was energetic and creative. She found new ways to bring species together, new projects that benefited everyone. "Admiral Tiho is still working with the military," Do-Yun said. "But now he trains soldiers from many different species. They learn to fight together to protect each other. It is called the Allied Defense Force." The boy's eyes went wide. Alien soldiers and human soldiers together. "Yes, they sleep in the same ships, eat the same food, train together every day. Some of them have become very good friends." This had been one of the most surprising changes. Species that had feared each other for centuries were now working side by side. There had been problems at first, of course. Cultural misunderstandings, language barriers, old prejudices that did not disappear overnight. But slowly, gradually, things improved. "What about the scientist lady?" the boy asked. "The one who made the special ships?" "Dr. Lee Somi. She is still inventing things, but now she shares her discoveries with everyone. She says that knowledge should not be locked away. It should be free for all to use." Somi had established a research station where scientists from every species could work together. It was producing breakthroughs that no single species could have achieved alone. Alien mathematics combined with human creativity. Ancient knowledge mixed with fresh ideas. The result was technology that seemed like magic. "The galaxy is very different now," Do-Yun said softly. "Not perfect. We still have problems. Some species still do not trust each other. Some people still want war instead of peace. But it is better than before. Much better." He looked out at the ocean, where the setting sun painted the water in shades of gold and red. "When I was young," he said, "I thought that power came from being the strongest. I thought that if you had the biggest army, the most weapons, the most ships, then you would be safe. But I was wrong." The boy looked up at him. "Wrong about what?" "Real power comes from something else. It comes from people believing in you. It comes from keeping your promises. It comes from treating others the way you want to be treated." He hugged his grandson a little tighter. "We could have used our ships to conquer the galaxy. We could have destroyed everyone who threatened us. But what would that have given us? An empire built on fear, surrounded by enemies, always watching for the next rebellion." He shook his head. "Instead, we chose something harder. We chose to build trust. We chose to share our gifts. We chose to turn enemies into friends. And now, for the first time in galactic history, there is real hope for peace." The boy was quiet for a moment, thinking about this. Then he asked the question Do-Yun had been waiting for. "Grandfather, were you scared when all those aliens said they wanted to fight us?" Do-Yun smiled. It was the same smile he had worn that day in the Grand Assembly Hall, the smile that had frightened delegates and given hope to humanity. "Scared?" he chuckled softly. "No, child, I was not scared." "Why not?" Do-Yun looked up at the sky, where the first stars were beginning to appear. Somewhere among those stars, human ships patrolled alongside alien vessels. Somewhere up there, species that had once been enemies were learning to be friends. Because I knew what we had built, Do-Yun said. I knew how hard we had worked. I knew that every person on Earth, every soldier in our fleet, every scientist and engineer and diplomat had given everything they had for this moment. He pointed up at the stars. And I knew something else. I knew that humans are special, not because we are the strongest or the smartest or the oldest. We are not any of those things. We are special because we never give up. No matter how hard things get, no matter how impossible the odds seem, we keep fighting. We keep hopping. We keep believing that tomorrow can be better than today. His grandson followed his gaze, looking up at the infinite darkness scattered with points of light. That is what I felt when they declared war, Do-Yun said. Not fear, excitement, because I knew that the galaxy was about to see what humanity could really do, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as survivors, as builders, as the species that looked up at the stars and said, "We belong there too." He lowered his eyes to meet his grandson's. And we proved it. The boy smiled, satisfied with this answer. He snuggled closer to his grandfather as the last light of the sun disappeared below the horizon. Above them the sky filled with stars, thousands of them, millions, each one a sun, each sun surrounded by worlds, each world full of beings who were learning, slowly and painfully, that cooperation was better than conflict. Somewhere up there, Park Yuna was negotiating a new trade agreement. Admiral Tiho was training the next generation of defenders. Dr. Somi was unlocking secrets that would benefit all species equally. And somewhere on a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy, an old man sat with his grandson and watched the stars come out. The galaxy had changed. It would never be the same again. The old order of fear and domination was ending. A new order of partnership and hope was beginning. It would take time, generations probably. There would be setbacks and failures and moments of despair. Building trust was never easy. Building peace was even harder. But humanity had time. They had patience. And most importantly, they had something that no other species fully understood. They had hope. Do-Yun closed his eyes, feeling the warm weight of his grandson against his chest, listening to the sound of waves against the shore. This was what he had fought for, not glory, not power, not victory. Just this, a peaceful evening, a child who would grow up in a better galaxy, stars that belonged to everyone. He smiled one last time. It was enough. Far above, 1,000 human ships stood watch over a galaxy that would never underestimate Earth again. Their weapons were powered down. Their crews were relaxed. Some of them were sharing meals with alien friends, laughing at jokes that translated badly, learning about cultures that had seemed strange just months ago. The war that never was had ended. The peace that almost failed had begun. And in the quiet darkness of space, between the stars that humanity had claimed as their own, something wonderful was being born. A future worth fighting for. A future worth hopping for. A future that belonged to everyone.